It's a special edition of PFTPM on a Saturday morning in between rounds 3 and 4 of the 2025 NFL Draft. And we decided it made sense to supplement something that was written last night at PFT because I have a feeling that story is going to end up being potentially one of the most viewed, one of the most trafficked stories in the 23-plus year history of PFT. And it came from an idea that I had a few years ago. Once it was clear that the antitrust laws would force the NCAA to abandon most, if not all, of its rules regarding college athletes, I thought it was just a matter of time before a player with remaining eligibility who decided to enter the NFL draft would consider the possibility of going back to college and taking advantage of the remaining eligibility. The easy answer is NCAA rules prevent it. Well, look at all the other stuff that's now happening that NCAA rules previously prevented until the NCAA lost in court on the question of whether or not every rule created by this body that was created by well over 100 independent businesses / universities, and they're all businesses. They come together, they create the NCAA, which promulgates rules that allows them to fix the prices of their workforce and not pay them. Just give them tuition, fees, room, board, books, snacks. Kicking and screaming they went until finally people realized that this is a problem. Hiding in plain sight. Antitrust laws prohibit this kind of action. Under that same theory, it can be argued that the antitrust laws prohibit the NCAA from saying, if you declare for the draft and you aren't picked, or you don't like where you were selected, or you don't like the contract you've been offered, whatever it may be, you can say, I'm going back to school. I've been thinking about that for a couple of years, and I don't know whether or not it would succeed in court, but it seems like every other attack on any NCAA rule has been successful in court under the premise that you can't come together and create these arbitrary, artificial rules that limit what individual businesses can do. At the end of the day, if there's a university out there that wants to let Shedeur Sanders come back and play for the 1 year left that he has of eligibility, it should be able to, and he should be able to. That's what caused it all to crystallize for me last night. As round 2 was coming to an end, that idea flickered in my head. And it may have been earlier in round 2, but at some point last night, I hadn't thought about this possibility. I wasn't lying in the weeds waiting to spring this. It just kind of naturally came up last night because what happened was, okay, he slips out of round 1. Well, surely he's going to be taken early in round 2. I got Mel Kiper yelling at me about how he should be drafted by now, and everyone else who's listening to ESPN's coverage. There are many others, many are saying that he should have been a first-round pick or could have been a first-round pick. Chris Sims had him as number 2 on his quarterback rankings. That was weeks before we had any idea that this thing was going to play out. So once round 2 started to go, once Tyler Shuck was drafted by the Saints, I think that's when that flicker of an idea that I had a couple of years ago came back. At some point, and we might already be there, it makes sense for Shedeur Sanders to say, I'm going to go back to college for 2025. I have a year of eligibility left. I'm going to go back. And he never hired an agent. Now, the argument would be, beyond the surface of the rules, he accepted benefits from the NFL by taking a trip to the scouting combine. Like, what benefit is that? It's not a vacation to Tahiti. It's Indianapolis in February. He's going there as part of an effort to try to find a job. They always tell us it's a job interview. He went on a job interview. They paid his expenses to go on the job interview. That happens all the time. If he decides to challenge this, and I don't know whether or not the NCAA would buckle, I don't know whether or not the NCAA would fight it. It wasn't that long ago, the NCAA basically said, this transfer portal stuff, hell, they can go anytime they want, anywhere they want. They can't stop them until, and we've said this before, Congress either gives them a Hail Mary with some type of antitrust exemption, or they unionize nationally and get the same type of labor antitrust exemption the NFL has, none of these rules matter. So, step one, should you try to do it? And think about what he would make in NIL money. Listen to some of the numbers we've heard that other quarterbacks will be making. And I know that it's not necessarily accurate, but it's not like it's peanuts. It's not like somebody's making 20 grand and they're calling it 4 million. Significant money is changing hands to get players to stay at certain institutions or go to others. It's a free-for-all. It's the Wild West. And at this point, when you look at the contracts that will be available under the slotted, negotiated rookie wage scale process, we might already be at the point, and we may have passed it at some point in round 3, where Shedeur makes more this year playing college football than he would make for 4 years under his rookie NFL contract. At what point does he say, I'm at least going to explore it? See, he could get drafted first pick in round 4, and he could still refrain from signing a contract. The team would still hold his rights until next year's draft. He doesn't have to sign. He's not under contract simply because he's drafted. He can say, no, I'm going to wait. Hey, team that picks me, thank you for finally selecting me, but I need to do something first. I need to explore whether or not I can go make significantly more money than what you're offering me, especially for this year, by using my final year of college eligibility. It's as obvious as the other antitrust violations were before somebody acted on them. I could have made this same argument at any point 10, 20, 30 years ago. And the mouth breathers on social media would have said, you're crazy, it's impossible, you don't know anything, and ultimately it would have been 100% right. It's the same idea. The same principles that have brought the NCAA to its knees could force the NCAA to let Shedeur Sanders play college football for another year. So, look, cost-benefit analysis, he's got nothing to lose by exploring it. I mean, we all have options that are present for any big decision we're ever going to make. So once he's drafted, round 4, 5, 6, 7, whenever, option 1, sign the contract and enter the NFL, regardless of who the team is, regardless of who their quarterbacks are on the depth chart, regardless of how little you're going to make under the slotted rookie contract. That's option 1. Option 2, try to go play football for a lot more money somewhere else. And I'm not talking about the UFL or the CFL or any other FL. I'm talking about NCAA. Dramatically more money for 2025. Why not at least explore it? He's got the money to hire the lawyer. And it would be very simple. You write a letter to the NCAA saying, look, your rule is an antitrust violation. We're going to file suit if you don't give our client the opportunity to return to the college of his choosing for 2025. Will they buckle or will they fight? I don't know if they're in the mood to fight. The letter, what's it cost? What's it cost? Hell, I'll ghostwrite it for you, Shedeur. You can send it under your own signature. Oh, I better be careful about that. As the Joker said, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. Of course, that assumes I'd be good at it. You probably don't want me writing it, Shedeur, but it would be a simple letter to write. A 2-pager. And really not all the way to the bottom of the second page. Just kind of like, one of those letters where you get to page 2 and there's just a paragraph and then there's the signature. It's not a full 2-page letter to outline the situation. The rule that prevents him to go back to school is an antitrust violation. Please advise as to whether you will abandon that rule as to my client. If I do not have an answer within 7 days, I will proceed with all potential legal options. And there's different things you can do. There's something known as a declaratory judgment action where you just go to court and say, hey, we have a dispute here. Please resolve it for us. Is there another year of eligibility? Is the rule against him coming back after he's declared for the draft, not signed a contract, not become a professional athlete officially, had no agent, that gave him any money, marketing guarantees, or whatever else they do to try to hire or be hired by players. It's simple. Simple, it's cheap, and that's where you get into the cost benefit. How much does it cost me to have a lawyer to go do this? How much more can I make playing college football next year than what I'd make next year or the next year or the next year or the next under my rookie contract? And he becomes kind of a trailblazer. It's a way to take back control. He's in this whirlwind now where he's got no control. He's getting prank calls during the draft. He's been embarrassed. Why wouldn't you be embarrassed? Mel Kiper's got you at number 5 overall. 102 picks have been made and your name hasn't been called. This is a way to push back and say, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it your way. Your way is clearly screwed up. My way is better. I'm going back to college. Now, the assumption would be, and maybe this is what he would do, you go back to Colorado. Unretire jersey number 2 for the purposes of the guy for whom it was retired wearing it again. Although I guess he could just wear a different number and they could retire that one next year. Be the first guy in the history of sports to have 2 numbers retired for him. And I'm not trying to be snarky. It's just kind of funny that we might be at the point where a guy whose number was just retired is coming back to play. But if the goal is to lay the foundation to be drafted higher next year than wherever would be picked this year, as you're laying out the options, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, door number whatever, there's merit to the idea of going somewhere other than Colorado, of detaching from dad. Because, look, we're never going to know with specificity and certainty why this happened, but it's not really a stretch to suggest that at some point, the possibility of Dion chiming in on why Shedeur got sacked 9 times on Sunday, the reality that Dion is just going to hover over the head coach that signs off on Shedeur. As I said weeks ago, there's going to be coaches who fear that signing off on drafting Shedeur will be the equivalent of signing their eventual pink slip, because Dion told Chris Sims and me at the Super Bowl, when we asked him point blank, under what circumstances would you return to the NFL as a head coach? He said, I would only ever go back to coach my son. Great sentiment. I like it. Any of the coaches that might be coaching his son possibly wouldn't like it. So maybe transfer to a different school, play for a different coach, let dad take care of Colorado, and I'm going to take care of my business. I'm going to prove to the NFL that I can thrive in a different system. Hell, maybe go to a school with a better offensive line. Maybe go to North Carolina. Hey, you want to get yourself ready for the NFL? Go play for the 33rd team, as Lombo and Belichick like to call the Tar Heels. Wouldn't they take him? If he really was as good as the draft experts believed, and if he fell out of round 1 for reasons unrelated to his skill, and if he plummeted through round 2 and 3 for reasons unrelated to his ability, why wouldn't Belichick and Lombo pounce on the opportunity to bring Shedeur Sanders to Chapel Hill? And then he goes, plays for Belichick for a year. And even though none of the owners want to mess with Belichick, plenty of coaches are going to listen to him. We get to the draft process next year. If Shedeur goes to North Carolina and lights it up, what's Belichick going to say to those coaches? This is his opportunity to push away all the concerns that have driven him through 3 rounds. Again, I don't know what he's going to do, but this is an unprecedented situation, especially if you watch the draft coverage. I've never seen anything like this before. This is a draft unlike any other. The hyperbole, and is it hyperbole? This is a guy that Mel Kiper had at number 5. This is a guy that others had as a guy possibly who will go in round 1, if not round 1, definitely round 2. And what we witnessed last night was a free fall through round 2, through round 3, and will it continue today? One thing about today, and this is my last point. Sean Payton, the Broncos head coach, and I wrote about this earlier today. Payton was very effusive in his praise of Shedeur Sanders. He's surprised that Sanders wasn't picked. Fine. Broncos are on the clock at 134. The 32nd pick in round 4 before they get to the compensatory selections. Well, if Payton feels that way, why don't you take him? Will you take him? Yeah, he won't be the starter, but you got a first-round backup to your first-round starter. And starters get injured. And if nothing else, you can develop him, you can groom him, and you can flip him. That's what this game is about. We've seen that before. Patriots did it with Joe Milton. Remember, they did it with Ryan Mallett once upon a time. Andy Reid used to do it with every one of his backup quarterbacks until teams stopped trading for Andy Reid's backups because they realized those backups are a lot better when they're with Andy Reid than they are when they become starters with me. And, it goes beyond Payton. At some point, and I remembered the Bill Polian claim from 2017 that he had a first-round grade on Tom Brady. Why didn't you take him before pick number 199 if you had a first-round grade on him? If other teams out there, they say best available player. We don't draft for need. We draft best available player. At some point, I'd like to think that 32 teams didn't have a 7th-round grade on Shedeur Sanders. At some point, his name is going to be at the top of the board in most, if not all, NFL cities. We don't need a quarterback. Well, if we had a first-round, second-round grade on him and our current backup is some guy that is a journeyman, are we better off with Shedeur as our backup, especially if we could keep him for a while and flip him later? Yeah, we have a starter. He's our franchise guy. He's the unquestioned man of the present and the future, but we're playing the game, and it is a game. You bring the guy in at a low round, and maybe at some point down the road, you trade him to another team with time left on his rookie contract for more than what you invested in getting him. Along the way, you've got insurance in the event that your starter gets injured. Every team needs 2 capable quarterbacks at least. As I say all the time, there aren't enough good quarterbacks to go around. Oh, wait, there aren't enough bad quarterbacks to go around. There aren't enough quarterbacks. So let's see what happens today. Let's see if the Broncos take him at 134. Let's see if another team with a coach who is very adept at developing quarterbacks takes a shot. Hell, hey, at some point the Vikings, well, I don't know if they have many picks left. They didn't have many picks going into the draft, but they don't have a number 2. They have Brett Rippon. They don't have a number 2. Do you need a veteran? Or do you need a guy that maybe you can develop who you possibly had a first-round grade on? Now, the problem is, and this is where the Tebow mania dynamic comes into play. Tim Tebow was good enough to be on a depth chart somewhere, but teams didn't want everything that went along with it, including the throng of Tebow fans who would have been chanting for him and demanding that he play. That kind of disrupts the vibe that you're trying to create in your locker room. You'd have to have a coach who can handle that. Payton could handle it. Others could handle it. Because when Shedeur comes to town, there will be extra attention. There will be extra scrutiny. There could be moments like, remember when, Quinn Ewers is the starter, Arch Manning is the backup. They had media day, and all the media was talking to Arch and not Ewers. You could have situations like that. But at some point, if you had a first-round grade on this guy, and we're getting around 5, we're getting around 6, we're getting around 7, it makes sense. Let's see what happens. But it also makes sense right now for Shedeur Sanders to be considering his options. And one of those options could be, should be, and for all we know will be, trying to go back to play one more year at college football for a lot more money than what he'd make in the NFL this year, and to bump his draft stock up for 2026, possibly by playing a season without Dion as his head coach. Something to watch as we continue to witness one of the strangest draft dynamics and it's not hyperbole, it is one of the strangest draft dynamics we have ever seen. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.